Good morning, Forest Box kids. Miss Katie here. This week we are doing a graphite or pencil drawing of an ant. This is what our final ant is going to look like. Believe it or not, it's actually quite simple. The advanced step that any of you, if you would like to do, you older kids, is this shadow. But otherwise, we are just going to be focusing on the body of the ant. Let's go ahead and go over our basic elements of design. All right, so what we have are line, shape, form, value, space, color, and texture. We will definitely be doing lines and shapes today. We will be doing form. We will be using values to create form, and that's about it. We're not going to be doing a lot of space, color, or texture. Now, these are the steps of our ant drawing. I'll bring them close for you. We are going to start with just simple squares. We're going to round them into oval-like shapes. Then we will erase the remnant of our square and do some shading. And then our final step will be to add in our eyes and legs and a shadow, if you like. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to leave this right here for you. And I'm going to use my just my basic pencil and my sketch paper, and I'm using a full paper this week. All right, so our first step is we're going to go ahead and draw different kinds of squares and rectangles, which are going to represent the different segments of the ant's body. We have, make these darker for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different segments, okay? This top segment is a rectangle sitting on its side for the head. So let's go ahead and start with that. Now we will want to make sure we have room for our antenna, so let's go a little bit lower. That is for my head. And then we're going to do one below, which is a rectangle, a tall rectangle, not one sitting on its side. And we're going to try to make sure we keep things centered. I'm going to do some erasing if I notice it's off. And then we have just a similar one. Okay. And then we just have a very small, taller rectangle. Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple. And then we have a large one. And I'm going to try... And if it's a little bit off center, that is just fine. It is still going to look like an ant. This one's going to be a little bit wider than this top one. And it's going to be upright. It almost looks like we're drawing a robot, but we are not. Okay, that is the first step of our ant body. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to round our rectangles. Okay? And I'm just going to go in and create curves. This is the one we're going to kind of change the shape, but every other one, I'm just going to be curving the corners, okay? So let's go in and curve our corners. We're on step 2. Let's go ahead and label these 4 steps. All right, round these ones. And then finally this little guy. And then this one, this large one, is going to almost be a heart, but without the top section. So it's going to be the bottom. The top is going to stay nice and flat, and then it's going to be the bottom of a heart. So here I'm going to keep this flat section. I'm still going to round the sides. And then now I'm just going to come in so it rounds to a point. And it can extend a little bit farther than your rectangle. I'm going to try to center that. Okay, so that is step 2. Now to get to step 3, we're going to erase all of these leftover lines from our rectangles so that the only thing we have remaining are our rounded shapes, the rounded segments of the ant's body. Fun fact, this part, the bottom of the ant, is actually the abdomen, where the stomach is. Erase these sections. And then if you have any messy lines and you want to smooth things out, this is the time to do that. We will be adding some shading, so know that if there are some lines that don't erase, it's going to be just fine. The shading is going to remove any remnant. Okay, we have step 3 complete. Now step 4 is where we shade. So I want to take a closer look at our shading. What I want you to notice here, let me bring it up for you, is this circle has 3 values. You've seen me do a value scale before, like this, where we have our light, our medium, and then we have our dark, okay? Now, those same 3 values are present in this circle, and it's kind of easy to see the distinctions: light, medium, and, dark, medium, and light, okay? Now, the difference between this one and this one is just the fact that I have run my pencil across these borders between the values to blend it, okay? So I started with this, and then I only ran some blending strokes to kind of blend in the changes so they almost disappear, and you get this illusion of light on the left side and shadow on the right. I want you to notice 2 other things. Let me give you this one. We are creating form when we add our shading to this body. We are going to create form in 2 ways. The first is the line direction. And the line direction that I'm using is curved. Okay? We are going to use curved lines to shade. And what that's going to do is that's going to help create the illusion of form. The second thing is we have our value changes. We have dark, medium, and light. Those 2 combinations here, just those 2, have given us this really cool looking sphere. We can call it a sphere now because it looks 3D. Okay, so we're going to try to create this same illusion on all of these segments. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and bring this back so you can take a look. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to use our pencil to create those curved strokes, and in all of these body segments we want to create a light value. So for me to do this, I'm going to turn my paper on its side, and that helps me create natural curved lines. When I do it sideways, it doesn't feel as easy for my hand, but when I bring it towards my body, it's really easy. So I'm just going to go top to bottom, and I'm using curved lines to fill in this space, and I'm going to try for a nice even coat, almost like paint. And when we are done, it's okay if you still see line, but you do want a light value. We don't want it to be really dark. The dark values are what we're going to use to create our form. And then I'm just going to move down the body, and I'm going to make sure I have curved lines, okay? You can go up, down, or you can only go down, or you can only go up, whatever feels really natural to you, okay? Curving here, and you'll notice just this little bit, without even any value changes, gives us the illusion of 3 dimensions and form here. All right, and then the last one, this is really rounded. So I'm going to make sure my lines look really round on this one. Lots of curve on that. I'll bring it up for you to see. Okay. And I'm just going to keep them coming. Layer. Now I'm going to try to look across my whole body and see if they're even. These look a little bit more numerous than here, so I'm going to fill this in a little bit more. And the more lines you have, of course, the darker the value. So this one looked lighter than these. So I'm going to go in and just add more lines. And if you happen to go outside the lines, we are using a light pencil. It should be very easy to erase, so there's no reason. Just keep filling it in. And when you're all done, go around the edges and clean them up. they will erase just fine. Even here, I'm going outside the lines just to make it easy on me. All right, and now I'm gonna clean up the outsides. Anything else? Okay, I feel like I have a nice even layer of light layering there. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do, it's gonna be kind of fun. And I am gonna draw a circle here, but you don't have to draw it on your paper, okay? I'm gonna draw a circle, and I'm gonna go ahead and color in, just so I can show you what we're aiming for our next section, okay? The next one we're gonna put in is the very dark one, okay? And the shape we wanna create on the edge of every one of these is a crescent moon shape, okay? We're gonna color in this section. We're still gonna use those curved lines, and we want it to be nice and dark, okay? It should take up, if I divided this circle in half, 1/4, like half of a half. So if I divided this whole thing in half, I am not gonna draw a line down. The sections that I am gonna make nice and dark, you can draw a line here. We can go around and try to create that crescent shape at the edge of every section. And this one's gonna be extra large, and it's gonna follow the line like that and meet at the tip. This is about the size that you want really dark, okay? So go ahead and make your lines, your little crescent shapes at the edges. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn my paper, and I'm gonna go in and use my curved lines to try to create a dark value. We are skipping, we have our light value, we are skipping right to the dark, and we're gonna fill in the medium next, okay? So I'm gonna go in, using curved lines, it's hard because they're small to get that curve, but even just a little bit of curve that you keep is going to be helpful. And actually they're all kind of tilted this way. So even if you kept them all going that one direction, tilted a little bit to the left, that's going to help you, okay? It is kind of hard to make it curvy. So I'm just going to tilt them all in the left direction and try to get a nice dark value here. And I'm gonna go in and outline a nice dark outline around the edge of every shape right here. Give a nice crisp edge. Okay. All right, even now we have an illusion of shadow, but we're gonna create a middle now. So we don't want to draw a dark line here, a very light line, and it's almost gonna be at halfway, okay, but not quite. This one probably closer to halfway. A nice light line, and I'll bring it close for you to see if you can see that light line I did. Because this is a lighter value, we don't want a dark line to mess up our goal of blending it all together. So I've got that line. It's close to a halfway line. And I'm going to go in now with my medium. And I'm just going to try, and they can be tilted left still. And I'm going to create a medium one that's, you can definitely see a difference between here and here. That's my goal. But also a difference between here and here. Okay? And then okay. Now, you can see the light, medium, and dark here. Now what we can do is it really helps when we blend it. If you want to blend it, you can leave it as is, to create some long strokes covering the whole section. And then also we can do some strokes here, right on this line between. And all of a sudden, it kind of starts to disappear. Just a little bit of strokes on top of that line between the dark and the medium. And that helps to erase the strong dividing line, okay? So that looks a little bit blended between the dark and the medium. And if these two, between the light and the medium, seems too stark to you, all you have to do is create a few lines here. Just some back and forth lines on top of that harsh border. And you kind of blend it out. Okay, we have the body. Excellent job, everyone. We have finished all of these steps. Now the last few steps we have are the legs, the antenna, eyes, and then an optional shadow. Okay, so let's go ahead and go in with our eyes. We're gonna have two ovals tilted inward a little bit. One, and we're gonna color those in nice and dark. 1, 2, okay? And try to make them nice and even. And then the next thing, we're gonna have two lines. I'll zoom in for you. Right there. And then on either side, we're gonna draw two sections for a left and a right antenna. Now, we are not gonna shade our antennas in yet, okay? So let's just draw our outlines. We're gonna have, it's gonna come out to the right. We're gonna try to create two symmetrical ones. And then we have a curve like this. So we're going to divide this antenna into two segments. Okay? And then next we have 6 legs. Okay? We're going to start with this top pair. And this top pair is extending out of the first segment here below the head. And it's at the bottom. So we're going to have 3 segments. 1. And we're just using lines. And then 2, this is where it goes up a little higher. And then we're going to extend out 3. Okay? Then the next one are going to, both of these next two are going to stick out of this middle section. We're going to have it curve up a little bit. And then let's create one long segment here. It's going to come out and curve up like that. Take your time, erase if necessary. Okay? And then we're going to have these come down and out. They're a little bit longer. And then we're going to bring them down and curve out. And they're going to kind of come to a point. Okay? All right, so what I want you to observe in this picture is the legs on the left are lighter than the legs on the right. And this is just a little trick to give more of that illusion that light is right here and shadow is here. So these are gonna be shaded the medium gray, and these are gonna be shaded the darkest gray. All right, so let's start shading. I'm gonna start on my light side, just with a light. Not pushing too hard. And then we've got this last one right here. Okay, next I'm gonna go in on this side and I'm gonna shade the legs very dark. Okay. We have the body of our ant all finished. The next thing we have is our shadow. So I'm going to see if I can erase some of this, and so we don't have anything competing with the shadow. Okay, so all we're doing for the shadow is we're going to try to create the form of the body a little bit to the right. Almost the exact same thing with the shapes to the right. And I'm going to do a little sketch for you. So we're going to try to move everything over maybe the width of my pinky. Okay, so try to have everything about the width of your pinky over. And so starting here, I'm going to extend this object out, and I'm just drawing a little bit of a shadow outline. And the tip is even going to be moved over here. This is the part, just like that. I drew an outline of the same thing sitting a little bit to the right. And I'm going to shade it in, and we want it the medium value. We want it to be darker than this light side so that it looks like it's popping, the ant is popping off the paper. If this is too light, it will compete with the ant body. And so we want it a little bit darker. And I'm just shading in. It doesn't matter the direction of your strokes here. We want them to all kind of blend together. But it does need to be darker than the lightest section of your ant. And we are almost done. That is about the shade that I'm looking for. Okay? It's not dark, but it is not light. All right, so now I'm going to try to extend this out about the same distance. And I'm just shading it in. I'm going to extend this out. And then this guy's going to come out. And this part is optional, okay? And then we have the head that's going to come out too. About this far. Draw the shadow. Draw the outline and then shade it in. The really fun part is when we add the legs, and that will be our final touch. Okay, I've got the shadow of the body, and next we are going to add the legs. So we want to focus on moving things to the right, and I'm going to focus on this joint, okay? This leg, if we draw it out, because it's already this way, we're not going to see a lot of the shadow until we have something coming vertical. So I'm going to move this joint over. And this is where I'm going to draw the same leg, just the same outline of the leg, and I'm going to connect it to this guy. Just like that, okay? Now, the joint where this starts, I'm going to pretend it's here. And I'm going to draw this leg starting right here, okay? And then I'm going to come down, and it's almost like we're just doing the same thing. We're moving it over, and we're overlapping them a little bit, okay? Do you see that? It's like the body's right here, and we're just extending it out. So here, we're going to extend it out like this, and we're going to come up. Okay, there's that. It's really starting to pop off the paper. And then finally, I'm going to create another antenna. And we're just going to mimic the one that's already there and have it change shape right about here. Okay, we have finished. Great job, everyone. As a bonus, if you want to create a shadow for these ones, on this side of every one of these legs, creating a shadow on this side, that will add even more beautiful form to your picture. Wonderful job. Please feel free to email me your pictures. Thank you for joining us this week. I look forward to seeing you next week.